Well, you know, he was a lecturer at the Chelsea School of Art, and we got to be friends. And so I did try to make a drawing of his head, because, you know, that's where I began, with heads. And that's the result. I haven't seen it in years, but, you know, it was exactly what he looked like. Just I'm amazed that, you know, it turns out that I was that talented.
My meeting with Cowboy prompted me to think that I could get into Rock College without any exam or anything, and that I would, you know, because I was this charming young man who was very desperate to become an artist, that he would take me in. Because I'd heard how warm and, you know, encouraging he is, but he wasn't having any of that from me. I had to sit the exam.
Art in general, his route into drawing and painting, was that he was an artist model for the Royal College of Art, and for some RCA students who got him to sit, you know, to model for them upstairs in the pub. And he said something like they told him that he had a very good head for drawing. And he said, well, if I've got such a good head, maybe I should draw it myself.
Yeah.
That's really where it all begins. So this is Agatha Elizabeth Franklin Bowling, my grandmother, Frank's mother, who was an incredible influence on his life. She was a dressmaker and seamstress and milliner and businesswoman. This was a photograph taken, I think, 1968.
In Guyana, yeah.
In Guyana, by Tina Tranter. I mean, it's a beautiful portrait. Geometrically, I think he's quite interested in her very circular face.
Because my mother, who's, I think, the biggest influence on me, was, she used to work from patterns, you know, traced flatness. So everything was flat next to each other. And that's how I was encouraged to carry on from there, from dressmaking.
Hey, how you doing?
Not too bad, how are you?
Good too. The connection of the dressmaker and I think the reuse and repurposing of fabrics is an interesting part of that, where everything that he does, it goes back into it. I think that's a very important part of what Frank does as well, where the paint that he uses on one painting flows onto the next one.
They are a wartime generation. Very, very frugal, never wasted anything.
This is a map of Guyana. He was born in Bartica and then moved to New Amsterdam, I think, when he was 1 year old. And then this is all the kind of names of places along the coast. There are also names of paintings later on. And then also this is Kaieteur Falls, which you can kind of see in his poured paintings quite a lot.
At school, that's 11 plus, it was given that I was not able to draw, particularly the shape of Guyana eluded me, because I tended to structure my drawings structural. I felt the urgency to make the map of Guyana in 3 dimensions. Took Guyana out of South America, which is where it is, and put it lying flat under South America. So, you know, the 2 countries were separate. And from there, I just stuck out the time spent learning how to make things work 3-dimensionally. Having arrived in London and made to look at everything in 3 dimensions, that I learned how to make things dimensional.
Frank's kind of early connections and other artists that inspired him, his friend Keith Critchlow had like a huge impact on him. They met while they were in the RAF. Keith's father was an artist, Jerry Critchlow, and that's kind of how Frank eventually ended up going to the RCA. And this is a really beautiful charcoal portrait of Frank by Keith. It's a beautiful portrait.
Yes, my mentor already, because he was older and he died. He's dead now, you know. But that's from whom I learned how to proceed into 3 dimensions. In order to enter a doorway, you had to step up. Whereas life drawing meant looking and making things work in 3 dimensions, you know, the whole.
In the past, it was definitely the preparatory sketches and the drawings led to the paintings. But now it's very true that the paintings give rise to the drawings. So he has a particular technique of placing cartridge paper close to or underneath or oblique to the canvas. And as the material runs off the canvas, whether it's paint or string or other material, it kind of draws itself. And sometimes, like the edge of the canvas, creates a horizon line on one of the works on paper to produce something which is like something out of a Constable or a Turner sketchbook, like en plein air sketches that have been kind of created almost automatically out of the work. It looks experimental and accidental, almost as though the works on paper are kind of making themselves, and yet there's something that Frank is doing to bring that into being.
It definitely feels like he's produced this environment for the paintings to draw themselves. Probably the biggest thing that is that environment that he fosters, the people he has around him, the materials that he brings into the studio, the philosophy that he has about concepts, whether or not they're fixed, and well, he plays very loosely with concepts because he sees them expand and flow into various different ways.
You just pick up the information as it flashes at you, you know, as it goes at great speed. You either have to be very quick or have a system whereby you're catching the light just like anybody else. I was drawing from what they themselves did, but also looking at the situations that they had taken, and you know, an awful lot of them were storytelling, you know, that sort of information graphically. Well, size became an attribute of what I was trying to do, simply because everyone were making tiny things, and I just wanted to be big. You know, I wanted to build a 3-story. You know, from the structures I established, looking at Cézanne, let us say, yeah, the way things were structured in cubes, as it were. So Matisse, who flattened out the structures and was all placed up, you know, on the flat. And that's what I've been practicing ever since. The ghost of an idea comes with the reality of things, as you put it, in mapping, you know, with flatness, with 2 dimensions as opposed to 3. And I just followed my instinct. It's all clearly out of instinct. The mapping takes place. You know, and the people who were doing that, except were people like Matisse and Piero before him. You know, tried to pack as much in as possible. And the business of cutting out, I'd already gotten from my mother. It's something that's sewn into me, as it were.